if you wouldn't be in the same room watching people doing it and you touching yourself to it, or if you wouldn't be okay with you watching from your room and peeking through the blinds and watching people doing it, why do you think it's okay for you to watch it from your phone and touch yourself?
You're trying to manipulate me! Oh my God! No! You're trying to manipulate me!
Have you ever watched a good show with a good plot and then boom, you see somebody's tits hanging to the floor or an unnecessary sex scene that's going on for way too long? Because I have, and I'm getting sick of it. Now before we hop into this video, I want you to watch the whole video, get to know your girl a bit, and see if you will consider subscribing. Alright, the over-sexualization of TV shows, let's talk about it. Lately, for a very long while now, I've noticed that every single piece of media that's out there for some kind of entertainment has some kind of sexualized content in some way, shape, or form. A lot of it, especially in TV shows, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. It doesn't matter what genre you're tuned into, whether it's fantasy, thriller, psychological, even shows that have nothing to do with romantic relationships whatsoever. Somehow, some way, sexual content is going to find its way into the plot. Now, this isn't going to be whether or not there should be anything slightly sexual in TV shows. That's not what's going on here. I'll be speaking on when it starts to become way too forced and excessive. On whether or not these TV shows actually need these scenes that go on for way too long 24/7. What is over-sexualization? Before we dive into what we're going to be talking about, we need a clear understanding of what the word over-sexualization means. Because a lot of words get misused and overused and nobody actually knows what they're talking about. The dictionary definition of sexualization is the act of endowing with sexual characteristics or of excessively emphasizing those characteristics. Now, over-sexualization by itself is not a word, but take that definition and make it into something that's way too much. Over-sexualization. But I'm pretty sure anybody can guess it's just the excessive amount of sexualized content that could make anybody uncomfortable. Now, there's a difference in watching something that you know is going to have explicit content like Magic Mike or 50 Shades of Grey. Or a romance show that's all about connection and intimacy and the things that go into a relationship. You know, things that you will expect to see that explore human connection. I'm talking about how you could be watching a show that you're expecting to be fun and adventurous, and then you see a naked girl getting dressed in a slow motion, zoomed in shots that serves nothing to the plot. Or two people that can't have an emotional connection with each other without hooking up. And these kind of scenes are so unnecessary that you know it's there for that kind of engagement. That's what I'm going to be talking about. The unnecessary erotic scenes that are only there for the filthy-minded people and the wrong kind of engagement. The common use of sexualization. Here I'm going to be talking about the two most used forms of sexual content in the film entertainment industry. Those two things being women and sexual intercourse. One thing that has been around since literally forever, even way back in the day, is the sexualization of women. It is no secret how much women are put out there in sexual ways in and out of broadcasted entertainment. It doesn't matter where a woman is, a woman could be dressed from head to toe and a man will still look at her sexually no matter the age. The reason I bring up women is because that is the main source of sexualization. Is women. Not just TV shows, but any kind of entertainment like music. Where I've seen it the most is in any kind of film, which is pretty much everywhere. I'm not talking about a scene where it's a romance movie and the male lead is starting to become more attracted to the female lead, which obviously is going to lead to sexual attraction, and the scene is obviously showcasing that. Like, that stuff happens in real life, and filming that there's nothing wrong with that because it happens in real life. It's going to happen. That's showing like real human connection, like this turning into this turning into that. I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm not talking about where things like this serve something to the plot. Now, with me saying that, do I believe that every romance needs to have the characters doing nasty stuff to show their true connection with each other? No, I do not. A genre of shows that does romance very cleanly, perfectly, is K-dramas. But that's a conversation for another day. Look at K-dramas if you want the real slow burn, like, romance, because these American romance shows is just straight up porn. No real connection, just straight up going right to it just because I find you attractive. I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather watch a romance that's about feelings and connection, not just about having sex and lying to each other and cheating on each other and then coming together, because that's what love is all about. But anyway, there's a difference between a show having sexual content that's relevant to the plot and a scene that's there just to sexualize the woman, and you know it. And you know those scenes are there just to show off the woman. When have you ever seen a man being filmed in like a sexual way like that? Like how the woman is. Oh, he got his shirt off. Men walk around with their shirts off all the time. That's not sexual. These scenes are there only for male engagement. For example, that one scene with Megan Fox in Transformers. You know the scene that I'm talking about. Both men and women were gushing at her in this scene because it's Megan Fox and she's beautiful, and it's understandable for everybody to look at her in this way. Yes, Megan Fox is a beautiful woman, but take that scene out of the movie and it changes nothing. The plot stays the same. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of women being sexually exposed. And I can already hear some people say, this is such a non-issue. You do know this is their job, right? You do know actors get a say in what they do. And that is definitely true. And we're going to be talking about that later, so buckle up, okay? But anyway, women are the main targets of sexualization in all kinds of entertainment. And that just goes way back in the day of women being seen as objects to be controlled by men. Instead of the sexualization of women devolving, it evolved. Even to the point where women make it no better and do it to themselves and know exactly what they're doing and who they're catering to. An example of that is the woman Bonnie Blue, who I made a video on, who is using her pregnancy and baby for sexual gain for men. So go watch that, because you may think it's always the man's fault a woman is being sexualized, but in some cases, the woman is doing it to herself and knows what she's doing. And you can't just not look at the woman in the situation. It gets to a point that both sides need to be studied, and not everything is because of the trauma a man put you through. So we talked about women. Let's talk about the overuse of sexual intercourse and overall sexual themes. Overuse of sexual themes. So one would argue that there's nothing wrong with having intimate scenes because it's just a normal thing that's a part of life. And I agree to an extent. It most definitely is a normal thing, but don't you think that it's too much sometimes? There used to be shows back in the day where you know two characters got intimate because it was heavily implied. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's natural. Does nobody talk about how uncomfortable it is trying to watch a movie with your family and then an intimate scene comes on that's just way too uncomfortable to watch? What happened to letting viewers use their imagination and things being implied in TV shows? What's not okay is when you're trying to watch a show and just about every single episode there's something erotic in it that does not have to be shown, yet it's being shown for way too long and for no reason. And there's a lot of people that agree that sometimes it's just way too much and in shows that you wouldn't even expect it to be in. Like Squid Games. There was absolutely no reason for those two characters to be doing all that, yet take that scene out of the show and it changes nothing. It's for realism. Just watch something else if you don't like it. Let me check your search history, because how lustful can you be to not see how people could be uncomfortable at these unnecessary sexual scenes that serve nothing to the plot, and it's just there for no reason. We get it. These two characters are in a relationship. We've already been through this. Just watch something else. If it bothers you so much, don't watch nothing rated higher than PG-13. Okay, that's a good point. Let's talk about it. Here's a little short example of how that couldn't really work. What about the new SpongeBob movie? Because you can't tell me that movie wasn't sexualized. Now, SpongeBob, along with other kid shows, always has some kind of adult theme in it that, and scenes that would have you like, if you saw your kid watching this show. but it was funny and most likely went over your head as a kid, like many things did. Back then, adult jokes went in one ear and out the other to kids because shows were nonchalant about it. I'm not saying they should have been in there because this is a kid's show, but again, it wasn't out there just in your face, you know? But again, the shows were very nonchalant about the adult jokes in it. But now it's very chalanting and not hidden at all. The marketing for the SpongeBob movie was crazy for it being for kids. And there's people defending it, talking about SpongeBob was never for kids anyway. It's always been like this. Well, the movie is rated PG. First of all. And if SpongeBob was actually for adults, like these people think, and it's not actually a kid's movie, it would have said PG-13. The ratings would have went up. The ratings would have went up. It's literally PG. It's for kids. And like I said, adult themes went over kids' heads. Not put right in your face. Not just blowtorched in your face. It has always had adult themes, but not like this and not this much. Adult themes purposely went over kids' head. A kid would not know what these jokes are about. But now, come on. Just them using Ice Spice alone for music is already weird because why are you using this explicit artist in this kid's movie? Your kid should not know who Ice Spice is, let alone her music. And you can only blame the parents for that because nobody be parenting their kids these days and let them look, listen, and do whatever. But that was just a little example of the whole, just watch something that isn't over PG-13. But back to the whole it's natural thing and just watch kids shows if it bothers you that much. First of all, intimacy is and should be advertised as two married people that love each other. Not hooking up with somebody you met at a bar just because you find them attractive. A lot of problems will be solved in the real world if people stopped having intercourse with whoever they deemed attractive and call it love and experiencing life. Like this world is so corrupt that it glorifies having multiple options out there instead of finding one person to live your life with. Because that's totally more safer than just being with one person. It's so glorified having multiple sexual partners and how it's just you experiencing life, but they don't understand how destroying it is for your mental health and your physical health. Even if you aren't using protection, even if you're doing this because you want to, 8 times out of 10, the people that have had a whole bunch of intercourse with random people regret it. People that were addicted to that regret it later in life. I have never met anybody that's like, oh yeah, I loved it, but I'm going to settle down now. I love it. And even if they're like, oh, I did love it, they end up wanting to settle down because they can't do that no more. But yet, it's better having options and multiple sexual partners instead of just being with one person. Because that's just boring. Deep down, that's not what they truly want. And 7 times out of 10, they're just doing what everybody else is doing, so it must be right. And for the people that say, just watch kids shows if it bothers you. And that's a good point because with some of these shows, the way they're advertised, you know there's going to be some kind of sexual intimacy somewhere in or something sexual. Or if a movie is like rated R with sexual content, you should be expecting that and can't get mad if this is in it, even if you don't like that kind of stuff. You can't get mad at that. But with that, it's everywhere. It's everywhere in places you don't even expect it to be. Because why am I trying to watch a show about murder mystery and next thing I know, there's 2 characters jingling on the front porch because they find each other attractive now? Like, sorry, I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was like, okay. Just because a show is rated mature does not mean I'm expecting to see somebody's titties every 2 episodes. Again, for no reason, that's only there for inappropriate gaze and entertainment. TV shows. Alright, we talked about this as a whole. Let's get to the specifics. There are countless shows out there that have a lot of nudity in it for no reason. For no reason. A popular example is the show Euphoria. The show as a whole is already way too much considering this is a show about minors, but we'll get into that later. I watched a few episodes of the first season when the show first came out, and before I even came up with this opinion, I already did not want to finish that show because it was just too much for me. Like, I didn't want to see any of that. I'll be specifically talking about an actress in the show that is one of the most disliked women right now and the most disliked character in the show, Sydney Sweeney and Cassie. Remember how I said that there's people that say in defense to women being sexualized in film entertainment that they get to choose what they get to act in. And also how there's women that knows what they're doing and who they're catering to. Well, Sydney Sweeney and Cassie are perfect examples of this. There's a scene in Euphoria that I've seen going around of Cassie doing very provocative, inappropriate things dressed as a baby for her OnlyFans in the show. Like the title says, the fine line between TV shows and porn. Because her aside for a moment, who wrote this and thought, yeah, this is some heat? Everybody only wants to talk about Sydney Sweeney in this scene, but what about the people that wrote it? Let's talk about them. Because are we writing a scene for a TV show or for fetishized porn? Because who is this scene for? There is nothing relatable about what's going on here. Even people that watch the show, like enjoy watching Euphoria, have questions about this one scene. Because there is no excuse in this scene. It's just the character. This is just what she does. If you can't see nothing wrong with just this scene as a whole, like by itself, then what does your search history look like? What's going on in your life to not see how, even though this is fiction, it's not real, why is this being put out? Now, Sydney Sweeney, there's actors out there that refuse to do some scenes because of their morals and boundaries, and she should have fell right in line with them. If I was her and I seen the script for what they want me to do, we gonna have to work something else out. Who in their right mind think that this is okay? We gonna have to work something else out because that is ridiculous. Yeah, it's fake, but that's ridiculous. People do anything for money and it's sickening. That's something that we all know. I don't care if it's just acting. Some of these actors have no boundaries and don't know when to stop. All money ain't good money, okay? It's their job. They act. That's what they do. Some actors have gone literally insane over roles they have played and become their fake character. But it's just fake, right? It doesn't matter. It's just their job. Euphoria is a prime example of over-sexualization, and just that baby scene alone has me questioning the people that see nothing wrong with that. And like, I don't have nothing to say about them people that see this scene and think nothing of it. Like, oh, this is just what she does in the show. Like, some people need to see the bigger picture, because like, if it doesn't make you feel some kind of like somewhat uncomfortable while you're watching that. But Euphoria is a show about the uncomfortable things that teenagers go through, just like countless other TV shows. For example, On My Block and Never Have I Ever. These are two very popular teenage shows. And one of the main things talked about in them is sexual intercourse. And nobody bats an eye at that. I've watched On My Block and a little bit of Never Have I Ever a couple years ago. And literally the whole entire plot of both of these shows is 13 through 16-year-olds having sexual intercourse and how they just have to do it. Yes, teenagers in real life are very sneaky and do have intercourse with each other while they're still in school. And it is still wrong. I think teenagers hate it when you point out that they're still kids. Yes, you see people doing this all the time, but does that mean that you need to be doing this? No, it should not be normal. Yes, the normal age is this, that. It should not be that. Which is why a lot of y'all are mentally ill right now. Y'all are still figuring out life, literally still in school. Some of y'all that be doing all this literally struggling in school at that. But y'all are surrounded by all these explicit TV shows and music that is basically glorifying it, basically telling you that you need to do this. Everybody's doing this. It's normal. It just has to get done. And you haven't truly lived your teenage lives unless you get high, drunk, and have intercourse all the time. And TV shows like this are quite actually sexualizing these kids. Yes, the actors are like 20 plus, but they're portraying children. having intercourse with each other. These aren't relatable shows. These are shows that are telling you, hey, you need to be doing this. Everybody's doing it. You're not a cool kid unless you do this. You're being left out of the teenage life if you don't do this. There's a difference between making a show about teenagers and the bad choices they make that can include drugs, mental problems, intimacy, and how because of all that, all of those bad choices, it makes them live a miserable, terrible life. And how this is what happens when you do this. You shouldn't be doing this. Let's try this instead. Don't do this. This is what it actually is. It's nothing to be glorified about. This is what it actually is. This is what it's actually going to do to you. There's a difference between a teenage show about that, because a lot of teenagers go through that. It is very normal for teenagers to do drugs. But these shows tell you it's okay. Do it. You feel sad? Do drugs. TV shows like this, they want you to do this. They want you to not be healthy. They want you to think that this is okay and that you shouldn't try to stop. And those are just two examples of shows about glorifying kids having sex and how it's normal and how it's just living the teenage life. That's literally the life you don't want to live as a teenager, even as an adult. Like I've said in a previous point, most people that go around sleeping with each other, drugs, drinking, all that, getting drunk, they regret it later in their life. They may be having the time of their life, but they regret it. 9 times out of 10, they regret it. It serves no purpose instead of filling in a void that you think needs to be filled by all these bad choices. It feels good until you want to stop. All that stuff feels good until you want to stop doing it. But nobody cares about those kind of TV shows because it's normal, and if you don't like it, then watch something else. Literally on my blog, half of the plot, literally the show starts, oh, Monte did this with Caesar or whatever, just got out of middle school. One of the characters, like in the next season, doing this with all these girls, they're like 15. Never Have I Ever is literally about the main character lying about having intercourse with somebody. And now she just gotta do it. She needs to do it. That's the whole plot. Like, when is there going to be a show about teenagers in high school that isn't about sex and how they just have to do it to truly live the life? Or just shows in general where characters don't have to go at it with each other to prove that they love each other every single time, every single episode, every single minute. Conclusion. There is a fine line between TV shows and adult entertainment, and people just don't care and refuse to understand why people will feel uncomfortable with this because of their own lustful thoughts and the not my problem, just do this if it bothers you mindset. But what do you guys think? Is it a non-issue how entertainment is becoming way too sexualized to the point where people are uncomfortable, or is it not that serious? But we made it to the end of the video, and I hope you watched the whole video and consider subscribing, and I hope you have a blessed day or night. Bye!